A fascinating and highly controversial chapter of prehistoric America is said to have been found on the sun-drenched shores of Catalina Island, off the coast of Southern California. Hidden among the quiet beaches and rolling hills, there allegedly lies proof of an ancient race of fair-haired giants, taller and more robust than the modern human. Identified through the discovery of giant skeletons, the giants are said to have possessed technology far advanced for the time. This assertion has sparked a vivid debate among scholars, archaeologists, and enthusiasts alike. Meanwhile, a more widely accepted archaeological treasure resides just north on Santa Rosa Island, the Arlington Springs Man. Discovered in 1959, it's the oldest known human skeleton in North America. These remains, belonging to a man who roamed the earth over 13,000 years ago, have significantly enriched our understanding of early human migration patterns and life in prehistoric North America. What are the stories of these discoveries that have contributed to the compelling mystery of our human past and the eternal quest for our origins? Catalina and the first giant skeletons. The Californian Channel Islands have long been of interest to scientists, explorers, and archaeologists. They, and Catalina Island in particular, were home to ancient tribes of Native Americans known as the Tongva, who settled there some 8,000 years ago. In 1913, Dr. Forstinen, a German naturalist who was visiting Catalina, found what was apparently the skeleton of an 8-foot-tall male buried amongst artifacts and relics that were not consistent with those typically recovered from Native American burial grounds. They included a mysterious flat stone that bore unknown symbols. Dr. Forstinen had been investigating a legend he had heard relating to Catalina's history, and the skeleton appeared to confirm it. A race of giants had once inhabited this land. However, due to being buried in hard black sand on Avalon Bay, which showed signs of being burnt at some point, the bones turned to dust as they were raised. The only bones excavated intact were one whole foot, the jawbone, and the skull. Therefore, the discovery of Forstinen's giant could not be confirmed. It's hard to say where the rumors of the Catalina giant originated, but there did exist a precedent regarding alleged unusual skeletons being found on the Channel Islands. This included the discovery of a 7-foot-tall skeleton with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. This specimen is claimed to have had 2 rows of teeth, a trait said to have previously been observed in Channel Island skeletons. It was theorized that evolution had taken a slightly different path here due to the isolated environment. With a reputation for turning up fascinating archaeological finds, the Channel Islands continued to attract archaeologists and anthropologists who dreamed big. Gliddens Discovery. At the beginning of the 20th century, an ex-carpenter and amateur self-taught archaeologist named Ralph Glidden began to dig. Glidden had grown up on Catalina Island from the age of 15 and was, by most accounts, a strange and eccentric man. Glidden developed a personal fascination with the local Native American burial sites. He had grand aspirations, having read about discoveries and accomplishments of professional archaeologists around the world, and now sought to take his own excavations to the next level. Glidden knew that to stand out and to make his name, he would need something big. Glidden then hired a publicist and falsified his credentials, referring to himself as a doctor or a professor of archaeology, even though he had not graduated from high school. Between 1919 and 1928, he dug up hundreds of Indian graves on the Channel Islands, adding thousands of artifacts to his collection, featuring ancient arrowheads, clubs, flutes made from human bones, and beads believed to have been used as currency. Glidden excavated as many as 800 ancient burial sites, primarily those of the native Tongva American Indians. Amongst his discoveries were what he claimed to be the bones of a race of giants, which he described as being European in appearance rather than Native American, with fair hair and blue eyes. The skeletons, which ranged in height from 7 to 9 feet, were claimed by Glidden to be the prehistoric ancestors of the Native Americans whose graves he had been turning over. In 1930, Glidden declared to the papers that he had unearthed the skeleton of a princess who had been buried upright in an urn with her fingers clasping the rim. Arranged around her were the skeletons of 64 children. 5 feet beneath the site, he found the skeleton of a man who measured 7 feet 8 inches in height, with a spear skewering his left abdomen. Gliddens giants, the tallest of which was 9 feet 2 inches, were apparently also highly intelligent and possessed relatively advanced technologies, which far exceeded those believed by popular science to have existed at the time. Gliddon maintained that their technologies and knowledge had vanished mysteriously, along with most of the giants themselves, most likely in some sort of extinction event. He claimed that the native humans had worshipped them, which is why they were generally found to have been buried in ceremonial ways. According to Gliddon, theirs was not just a small group of individuals who had evolved in isolation, but an entire civilization that had been lost to time. A macabre collection. Gliddon sought to capitalize on his remarkable finds, which were beginning to receive media attention. In 1924, he founded the Catalina Museum of Island Indians, where he stored and displayed his collection, which was, in his words, quote, a unique and weirdly spectacular institution. The museum featured stacks of bones taken from the looted graves of Native American Indians. Gliddon furnished the space decoratively, using the remains he had dug up, and even fashioning cornices from shoulder blades. He built shelving from larger bones and decorated the walls and ceiling with skulls. Gliddon placed his discoveries in macabre poses to unsettle and thrill his visitors, whom he charged 35 cents each for entry. However, once inside, they found little evidence of giants. His archaeological peers had claimed the larger bones in Gliddon's museum to be fake, and in fact purchased from a gift shop. Gliddon's claims of giants were generally refuted by mainstream science, who criticized his lack of proper methodologies. Some media labeled Gliddon a hoaxer, and in 1950, he closed his museum. Gliddon attempted to sell his collection, still believing it to be worth a great deal. However, it was bought in 1968 for just $5,000 by the Wrigley family, who had made their fortune in chewing gum and had expressed an interest in preserving the history of Catalina Island. The Wrigleys later donated Gliddon's finds to the local Catalina Museum. The mystery of the first humans. The true nature of the first people to have inhabited the Channel Islands has been the subject of debate. And at the center of this debate is a set of human remains referred to as the Arlington Springs Man, discovered around a decade after Gliddon's museum closed. If Gliddon's methods had been more sound, this monumental discovery might have been his. However, the bones were discovered by an archaeologist named Orr, who suspected that they might reveal something of the island's true past, but could not at the time have anticipated the importance of this find. The Arlington Springs Man was found protruding from the sides of a canyon cliff on Santa Rosa Island, 100 miles northwest of Catalina. The bones were buried 37 feet below the cliff top, amongst sediments that appeared to be from the Pleistocene era, which ended some 11,700 years ago. Understanding the limitations of modern dating methods, Orr preserved his find by excavating the entire block of earth, encasing it in plaster, and moving it to the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, where it would wait until technology had advanced far enough that accurate dating could be carried out. Eventually, in the late 1980s, when Orr was in retirement, the Arlington Springs Man's remains were unwrapped. A sample was taken from a femur bone, and a radiocarbon dating expert found the remains to be an incredible 13,000 years old, making them the oldest reliably dated human remains in America. The presence of human life on the Channel Islands in such an early period of human history suggests that watercraft were being used as a method of coastal migration in America far earlier than historians had previously thought. It also made the possibility of Gliddon's giants even more distant. As archaeological methods and technologies advance, excavations on the Channel Islands continue, and researchers hope that we will soon know more about the life of the Arlington Springs Man and his people. A strange and mysterious case. Many age-old cultures have told stories of abnormally tall humanoid creatures living amongst or before them. Also, many skeletons over 7 feet in height have been found around the world, many featuring other abnormalities, such as elongated skulls and immense jawbones housing multiple rows of teeth. Across North America, over 1,000 accounts of skeletons more than 7 feet tall have been unearthed. Despite this apparent wealth of evidence, modern science remains skeptical of the existence of giants. Discussing Ralph Gliddon's discoveries, One Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History curator said, quote, "These reports are apocryphal, as far as I've been able to determine. For example, there's a historic photo of Gliddens in the background and the burial in the foreground, merely creating an illusion that the skeleton is somehow a giant." However, the reason why numerous comparable discoveries have been made on Catalina and the Channel Islands remains unknown. The early finds cannot be confirmed nor disproven. It seems in retrospect that it may have been these earlier apparent discoveries that inspired Gliddens' hoax. In 2013, the Catalina Island Museum created what the museum's director called, quote, "a disturbing and troubling exhibition." It was titled "The Strange and Mysterious Case of Dr. Glidden," and sought to establish Ralph Glidden as an exploitative grave robbing liar. It is now estimated that throughout his career, Glidden desecrated the graves of around 4,000 individuals. While Glidden's claims have been refuted, there are surprising effects that isolated evolution can have on a species, and several prime examples of this have been discovered on the Channel Islands using sound scientific methodologies. In contrast to Glidden's assertions, there is substantial evidence that large animals frequently adapt their size in accordance with their habitats, often resulting in notably smaller creatures when isolated on islands, a phenomenon known as insular dwarfism. This is exemplified by the pygmy mammoth, a dwarf elephant less than half the size of its Columbian mammoth predecessors. Its remains were first unearthed on the Channel Islands in 1856, and subsequent discoveries were made in the same strata where the Arlington Springs Man was found. Another illustration of insular dwarfism is the island fox, the tiniest fox species in North America. It's exclusively indigenous to the Channel Islands and can be observed there today. Even with substantial discoveries of unusually large skeletal remains spread throughout the continent, the mainstream scientific community continues to express doubt about the existence of ancient giants. Are you ready to unlock the secrets of the past? Subscribe now to Dark Five's brand new Ancient Mysteries channel and embark on a journey to uncover the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring mysteries of ancient times. Leave a comment if there are any ancient mysteries you want us to explore in upcoming videos.